Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, so when you think about Frank Herbert's Dune universe, this huge, sprawling sci-fi epic, you're probably picturing, you know, grand strategy, politics, spice wars, that kind of thing, right?
Exactly, big picture stuff.
But today, we're diving into something,
Yeah.
well, pretty unexpected, actually. A Dune survival game. Does that, grab you?
It definitely grabbed us. It's Dune Awakening, set on, of course, the brutal desert planet Arrakis, and yeah, survival game. That specific genre choice, it definitely raised a few eyebrows initially, mine included.
Absolutely, mine too.
Yeah.
So for this deep dive, our mission really is to give you the full picture, a comprehensive look at what makes this game tick. We've gone through initial impressions, loads of expert reviews, mountains of community feedback.
Yeah, loads of it.
To explore how Funcom, the developers, tackled this challenge, translating such a dense, lore-rich world into a whole new genre for it.
We'll be looking at the successes, which are actually pretty surprising in some ways. The quirks, definitely some
Yeah.
quirks. And the big debates that are already swirling around its long-term appeal.
Exactly. By the end, hopefully, you'll have a much clearer idea if Dune Awakening is, the Dune game you've been waiting for.
Yeah.
So let's unpack this thing.
Let's do it.
Okay, so when this idea first dropped, Dune is a survival game, I've got to admit, I was skeptical. I think a lot of people were. Like, GameRanks even said the premise seemed a little odd at first glance. I mean, Dune is usually about those huge political struggles, the houses, the emperor not scrounging for water drops. What was your first thought on that genre mix?
Yeah, that's a totally fair reaction, and honestly, I felt the same way. But what's really fascinating, I think, is how fast that skepticism seems to have evaporated for a lot of people.
Really?
Yeah, despite those initial doubts, you see a lot of reviewers, a lot of players now saying things like, GameRanks again. It might actually capture the feeling of Dune in a way no other game has up till this point.
Wow.
And IGN went even further. They called it the most authentic take on the Duneverse imaginable. And I think that's not just hype. It really points to Funcom making a smart move by sort of sidestepping strict canon.
Ah, okay. How so?
Well, it gave them the freedom, the creative room, to really translate the core feeling of Dune. How brutal it is, how alien, the sheer scale, into a genre where the player's own story, their survival, is front and center, which is something maybe other Dune games haven't quite nailed.
That's a really strong shift then, from odd to most authentic.
Yeah.
You mentioned sidestepping canon. A lot of that authenticity seems to come from a pretty clever narrative decision they made.
Exactly. This isn't strictly following the books or the movies. It's an alternate reality.
Right. So Paul Atreides.
Doesn't exist here. In this timeline, Paul was never born. Lady Jessica, his mother, had a daughter instead named Arist. And this, like IGN and Eurogamer pointed out, lets the developers play in the Duneverse without tying themselves to canon events.
So you, the player, you make your own character.
Yep.
Totally custom character. And your main task, initially anyway, is to find the lost Fremen, the native desert people of Arrakis. That mystery drives a lot of the early plot. It's a smart way to give them freedom, but keep it feeling very, very Dune. You get to explore a sort of what-if scenario.
Okay, so that's a neat narrative trick. It frees them up. But, I mean, the real test for any Dune game, right, is Arrakis itself. Does this alternate version feel like Arrakis? Does it capture that spirit?
Oh, absolutely. I'd say Arrakis is almost the main character here. It's brutal, it's properly strange, and it never lets you forget you're on Dune.
How does that come across?
Well, you're interacting with factions like the Bene Gesserit Sisterhood, that secretive order with all their mind games and politics. You explore these weird dream sequences. It just nails that weird but epic tone, that alien feel GameRanks mentioned. And the whole mystery of the Fremen disappearing adds to this really harsh, dangerous world building.
It sounds like the planet isn't just scenery. It's actively trying to kill you, like it's weaponized. That's a perfect way to put it. It is weaponized. The environment is a constant primary threat. Direct sunlight. That'll give you heat stroke, drain your water incredibly fast.
Yeah.
Sandstorms, they can roll in with barely any warning. They damage you, slow you right down. It's just relentless.
Yeah, and I read it's not just the big stuff. You've got quicksand, apparently something called drum sand that actually attracts sandworms.
Yep, pulls them right to you.
And spice blowouts, these huge eruptions that just destroy everything nearby.
Yeah.
GameRanks said water is basically the only real meter you have to constantly stress about. It sounds less like survival, more like just managing constant dehydration.
It really is.
Yeah.
And of course, you can't talk Arrakis without the worms, Shai-Hulud.
The big guys, how are they in the game?
Terrifying. Eurogamer called them a terrifying presence, IGN mentioned. Moments of genuine shock, players frantically ducking behind rocks. They aren't just, static obstacles. They feel huge. Their physical presence is immense.
I can see them moving under the sand.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They breach, they move with this incredible power, and crucially, they hunt by sound. So they feel dynamic, alive, and genuinely, as GameRanks put it, awe-inspiring, but also pants-wettingly scary.
Okay, so dynamic, terrifying, awe-inspiring worms, check. And that feeling, that immersion, it goes beyond just the mechanics, right? The whole presentation helps sell it.
It absolutely does. Visually, it looks fantastic. The character models are great and it has this real sun-baked look thanks to global illumination rendering. It makes the light feel right, harsh and alien.
Makes sense for Arrakis.
Totally. And the audio, Eurogamer highlighted the booming audio design of the worms. You feel those tremors, it really ramps up the tension.
So Arrakis is this incredibly harsh mistress. That hostility, it has to drive the gameplay, right? How does that core loop, survival, exploring, building a base, how does that actually work when the planet itself wants you dead?
Well, one of the most Dune-specific things is how you get water. Sure, there are dew collectors, tiny amounts, but the main source, it's from blood.
From blood, you mean combat?
Exactly. As GameRanks puts it, this means a lot of combat. You're constantly raiding camps, hitting crashed ships, not just for gear, but for that sweet, sweet loot that includes water extracted from, well, enemies. It ties survival directly to being aggressive.
Huh. So combat is hardwired into basic survival.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Does that risk making fights feel like a chore, though? Just water-gathering runs?
That's a potential downside, maybe, but it definitely pushes you out there.
Yeah.
And speaking of busy work, the crafting system is actually really slick. GamerRanks called it ideal, basically.
How so?
It cuts out a lot of the tedious inventory management you get in other survival games. There's like a button to just dump all your gathered resources into storage, and the crafting benches pull from that automatically.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, even the stations themselves have their own little inventories. It keeps things moving.
So you're not stuck shuffling twigs back and forth forever.
Exactly. It frees you up for the main thing, which is these excursions out into the desert to get stuff. GameRanks compared it to Subnautica, but, sand instead of sea, running out of water instead of air.
I like that comparison. Balancing long-term goals, like fixing a vehicle maybe, with those constant short-term dangers, heat, storms, thirst.
Precisely. Keeps you on your toes.
And base building. Is it complex?
It's pretty straightforward, mainly needs rock. But there's enough depth for strategy, like needing power for shields against the storms. But it's not designed for you to just, putter around your base forever, as GameRanks said. It wants you out there.
Makes sense. Exploring this dangerous world. Is the exploration actually good, though? I mean, it's a lot of sand.
Surprisingly, yes. Even though it is mostly desert, sources like GameRanks and Eurogamer say it's interesting and rewarding. There are different biomes, faction places like Harko Village, hidden bunkers.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, with audio logs, holograms, little bits of lore that flesh out this alternate Arrakis. It makes finding things feel worthwhile.
Okay, now, let's get into it. The combat and abilities. This seems to be where opinions really start to split. A real mixed bag.
That's putting it mildly, yeah.
GamerRanks, for instance, they called it a big improvement over Conan Exiles, Funcom's last big survival game. They liked the slow, deliberate stabs, especially how it mimics the shield combat from the lore. But I heard very different takes, too.
You definitely have. It's super divided. While some appreciate that deliberate pace, yeah, others less impressed. IGN flat out called the combat pretty awful.
Ouch.
Reddit users called it janky. GamerRant said underwhelming. Eurogamer used the word sluggish. When you hear janky or sluggish, it usually means things like, input lag, animations not feeling right, just not responsive.
What's the core problem people point to?
It seems to boil down to the Holtzman shields. These personal force fields, they block fast stuff, right?
Yeah.
So guns are mostly useless against shielded enemies. It forces you into slow melee.
Like in the books and movies.
Exactly. It's lore accurate. But in gameplay terms, it means you constantly have to juggle back and forth between guns and melee weapons, as IGN said. And in big fights, Eurogamer noted, it can create this oppressive rhythm, just a crushing halt to momentum. It can feel less tactical, more just awkward.
So maybe prioritizing lore accuracy over smooth gameplay feel. That could definitely turn some players off, especially if they expect faster action.
Yeah.
What do you think about that trade-off?
It's a tough balance, right? stick to the source material religiously or make it feel good moment to moment, critics are split. Some love the authenticity, others are frustrated by how it plays out.
On the plus side, though, there are special powers linked to classes.
Yeah, things like grappling hooks for the soldier class, which sounds fun, adds mobility. But there's a funny quirk Gameranx mentioned, the MMO storytelling issue.
Meaning?
Well, like, one class is Ben and Gesserit, right? They
Yeah.
get the voice, the mind control power,
Whoa. Oh.
which is supposed to be super rare, almost unique. But in an MMO, you've got potentially dozens of players running around using the voice on enemies.
Huh. Yeah, that does break the lore immersion a bit.
It's just one of those things you kind of have to accept in a shared world game, I guess. Gameplay needs trump perfect lore sometimes.
Okay, so it is an MMO, but maybe not like World of Warcraft size. How does the online part work?
Right, it's online only, but Gameranx explained the servers are kind of partitioned. Normal zones might have smaller subservers with maybe 40, 50 players. The idea is you don't constantly bump into people until the end game.
But does that actually work? Does it feel lonely like Arrakis should?
Well, that's another sticking point. While the intent might be isolation, especially early on, both Gameranx and folks on Reddit mentioned the starting areas are often just covered with abandoned bases from other players.
Ruins the vibe a bit.
Yeah, it kind of breaks the immersion for some. And sometimes you'll find areas already cleared out by someone else, which can kill the suspense, you know? Undermines that feeling of being the first one facing the dangers.
That's a shame for the Dune purists wanting that desolate feel. But the end game, that sounds like it shifts gears completely towards PvP.
Big time. It really focuses on open world PvP in a specific zone called the Deep Desert. Apparently, that's the only place to get the absolute top-tier crafting materials.
So it forces PvP if you want the best stuff.
Pretty much. And IGN highlighted this really cool mechanic. A weekly Coriolis storm, this massive planet-wide sandstorm, actually wipes and procedurally generates a new map layout for the Deep Desert each week.
Whoa, that keeps things fresh.
Definitely dynamic, but
Ah,
this is where it gets really contentious, the whole PvP meta.
let me guess, not everyone's happy.
Not by a long shot. There's a lot of talk on Reddit and OpenCritic about the orny stomping meta.
Orny stomping, as in ornithopters.
Yeah, players in the Thopters, the Dragonfly Flyers, just carpet bomb players on the ground. IGN said it can be massively unrewarding if you're solo or don't have a tricked out ship yourself. You just get steamrolled.
Yikes. Sounds frustrating.
It highlights that classic challenge of balancing open world PvP. Is it reflecting the ruthless politics of Dune? Or is it just not fun for a lot of people? There are definitely loud calls for PvE-only endgame servers.
Is Funcom responding to that?
OpenCritic did note that Funcom said they're working to fix the most annoying PvP tactic, ASA, so they're aware.
Good. It sounds like the PvP focus really pushes players towards joining guilds, though. Getting organized.
Absolutely. Eurogamer mentioned that this fierce environment encourages guilds and getting involved in the weekly Landsrad politics, basically faction battles for server-wide bonuses. It fosters that organic community play and social side.
So lots happening there, but putting aside the design debates for a sec, how is the game technically? Is it stable? Funcom games have sometimes had rocky launches.
That's true. But the consensus here seems pretty positive, actually. Well, yeah, there are still some janky animations and visual bugs, occasional disconnects, as Gameranx and IGN mentioned.
The usual online game stuff.
Right. But many agree it's a big step up, a really, really stable game compared to Conan Exiles at launch. IGN even said it's not the smoothest launch, but also far from the worst. For this kind of ambitious online survival game, that's honestly pretty good news.
Okay, so technically decent, and overall, critically,
Yeah.
that seems mostly positive.
Yeah, the reception's been quite strong. OpenCritic has it around an 81 average score, with 84% of critics recommending it. The big positives are almost universally the atmosphere, the world building, the survival depth.
And the negatives.
Predictably, the combat mechanics and those endgame PvP balance issues are the most common criticisms.
Makes sense. What about the players themselves? Is the excitement holding or is it fading?
The honeymoon phase debate. That's definitely happening in the community, places like Reddit. People are asking, is this excitement genuine and sustainable, or just early psychological hype?
What's the general feeling?
A lot of players seem to feel the first, say, 50 to 100 hours are pure joy, totally worth every penny, just for the PvE, survival, and exploration alone. But some do admit the endgame feels a bit thin or shallow, especially if you're playing solo. Long-term appeal might really depend on how Funcom continues to update and balance things.
Okay, so wrapping this all up, what does this mean for you, the listener? I mean, Dune, Awakening is clearly taking some big swings creatively, sticking so close to the source material's feel within this survival MMO box.
And it seems to undeniably deliver an unparalleled Dune experience on that front. You really get to feel Arrakis, the danger, the beauty, the brutality, in a way maybe no other game has managed.
Plus, you've got those unique strategic layers from the environment constantly trying to kill you, and some nice quality of life stuff in the crafting that avoids tedious grind.
Those are definite pluses. They really thought about the survival genre itself.
But you absolutely have to weigh that against the combat criticisms, which are persistent, and the very polarizing nature of that PvP endgame. If you're purely a solo player or strictly PvE, that endgame might be a real turnoff right now.
It's a game that asks a lot of you. You're fighting the planet and potentially everyone else on it.
Which brings us to a final thought. The Dune universe, it's always been about these complex plots, yes, but also just raw survival against impossible odds, right? Plans within plans, fighting for every drop of water.
Absolutely. The core is struggle.
So Dune, Awakening throws you into that struggle more directly, more viscerally than anything before. If the game thrives, as some say, on constantly pushing you out of your comfort zone into danger, does that inherent harshness coming from Arrakis and other players maybe perfectly capture the true spirit of Dune, even if it sometimes feels like a chore or unfair?
It's a fascinating question. Does the difficulty, even the frustrating parts, make it more authentic?
What stands out to you about a game that makes its core setting, its world, so fundamentally challenging, almost antagonistic? Something to think about.